Alright, so today I wanted to showcase the Azeron Cyro, something I got in the mail today. I ordered it about a month and a half ago. These things are created on demand to be personalized. It is an ergonomic gamepad that is meant for use in a variety of capabilities. You don't even have to use it for gaming, you could use it for productivity or just ergonomics in general. Uh, let's get into it. First off, the price point on this is real high. So if you don't already use gamepads or you aren't sure that you're going to utilize this, I would shy away from it. The price point on this is around $200, including shipping, 212, 220, something like that. Especially if you get all the bells and whistles available for it, which are not very many. It comes with magnetic joystick tips that are in a variety. So it is not necessarily anything all that major, but it can be the difference for a lot of people. Um, it is a total of 22 buttons, and they are all programmable. It also has a built-in mouse, so you are able to utilize this as a mouse. You can order it for left or righty. It comes with a strap to lock you in and make it so it doesn't stray too far. Now, the strap is Velcro, but it is something simple that you could probably um, replace as needed if the Velcro wears out on it with, like a ski strap or um, a number of other things. So first things first, let's get into build quality. So for $200, you'd expect a pretty decent build. This is 3D printed, which normally people associate 3D prints with cheap, but this is actually pretty well made. The thickness on the actual hand cradle is really appropriate for what I would expect for this. It's very sturdy, doesn't have any give. You do get grip tape if you want on this, which does make this feel a lot grippier. There is a lot less, uh, if you were to not, you would still have some texture from the 3D print itself, but I would say it's definitely worth having. Um, the joystick is fully movable and rotatable, so if you're one of those people that has like an odd hand or something along those lines, you can actually rotate this and I'd say about 45 degrees or so without too much effort. And then it also has about 30 to 45 degrees in play in rotation um, the other direction, so that way you actually can customize where this is sitting fairly well. Um, you also have the option to utilize the directional button pad that's right here. This is actually 5 buttons in one, so you've got a central press, you've got your right, your left, your down, and your ups. And those are fully programmable if that's something you prefer to use. Then your thumb is here rather than here. Um, but you can set it up to be keyboard, 360, analog, both, or a mouse wheel, even if that's what you want. You can also have it show you what the secondary analog would be if you were using it, and it is fully programmable for dead zones, upper, lower, your angle, overall sensitivity. So it's really nice. Um, you can also change the wheel on it to be page up, page down. The downside to this thing is that the wheel isn't recognized as a mouse wheel. So I also have a Razer V2 Tartarus, and its mouse wheel is recognized as a mouse wheel. So it will actually scroll at the same speed as what your mouse would, but you can also adjust that. Whereas on this, when I had it set to the actual original mouse wheel, it's pretty slow, especially if you don't want to be sitting here doing this the whole fucking time, then you're going to be really wanting to change that to either page down or you can even turbo it so that it scrolls a little faster. Um, it's also got, you know, what would be referred to as J3, um, the press in on the analog stick, so that is a button as well. So that's your 22. Um, so you've got 5, 6, plus directionals, so 10 there, plus all of these. It's pretty nice overall. The one thing I dislike about these is, number one, I do wish that they would have allowed for the cradle to have a little bit more of a downslope here, so that way your pinky doesn't feel like it's being crushed against it. So maybe either brought this out a little bit more, or have it downslope a little bit to allow for the pinky to have a little bit more breathing room. And this is the medium size, not the small size, and my hand is medium size, so that works out well. Most of the buttons are easily reachable. Where you see my fingers are now are easily reachable, but those last four at the top end are a little bit of a problem. And I do wish that they would have built that out on a separate daughter board, which it may already be on a separate daughter board based on how it's shaped, and put that on like a either an angle plane adjustable or a slider adjustable to make it so that it's a little bit easier to reach those last four. Overall, that's not too much of a problem, since really you can just adjust where your hand is sitting to reach those a little bit easier. Um, but I do feel a little more comfortable when I can have my hand a little bit closer to the end, or to the inside, rather than to the out. Um, the buttons feel very nice. They're smooth, especially considering they're 3D printed as well. Now, this button is smooth on the head, even though it does have a distinct pattern on it. It's basically almost like a weld fill-in pattern, which makes sense for a 3D printer. So, but the buttons do feel nice. They are responsive, very quickly responsive, and you can actually program them to either respond to single press, long press, double press. You can also have it have a release behavior if you wanted it to be that way. So if you wanted to, I don't know, have it press the same button again on release or something like that, you can do that. I personally can't think of a use for that, but it is nice to have options available to you. The software is pretty basic, but it is all inclusive, so I got no complaints about that. It does give you options for visuals, so you can have, you know, your actual buttons shrink down, be smaller font size, or if you're using a big display like me, which I have a 55-inch TV that I play on, then it's a little easier when everything's bigger. You can also have it hide custom labels that you set up, button numbering, show them, show the custom labels. You can have it set up to auto scale. You can increase or decrease the brightness of the profile indicator, which is pretty minimalistic. I feel like you could honestly have this on the lower end and it really isn't going to change a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of LED to this, which is honestly fine with me. I feel like a little bit of our stuff has gone crazy with the LEDing. I do not know for certain just yet. There is a little screw head right here, but I'm not 100% certain that this is fully seated where it is. But it'd be nice if you can rotate this directional pad here to make it a little bit more uh, ergonomic. It is perfectly fine where it is for me, but for some other people, they may want it to be a little bit more off angle, so that way they can use the center of their thumb vice the tip of their thumb. I do wish that they had made this a slider button rather than a joystick style button, because it is basically press forward, press back, side, and in, right? But if it was a slider, then you would slide it forward, slide it back, rather than tilt it, which I think would be a little bit better in this aspect. I'd also really like to see them make this um, key itself replaceable. Like you can just pull this off and put in a different 3D printed uh, key switch. Because I wouldn't mind something a little bit bigger in some ways, or maybe even a, a rounded ball or something a little bit different. I'd like options with that, but as it currently stands, that is not the case. Um, the plastic here is a little on the thinner side. I can feel that when I press into it that it does have a bit of give, whereas the handrest has no give. So overall, that's not a hindrance because you got to keep in mind that this is also used as a mouse. So the more weight you have, the less it feels comfortable with that. Um, Personally, I have the mouse function on this disabled. The other thing I'd like to really see them fix is the actual port for the USB plug itself is fitted for their cable that they give you. And while that's not bad, I wish I could use a 90-degree cable on this, but now when I order one, I'm going to have to make sure that it fits. Because if you look at this actual USB cable, it's got a little bit of a taper on the end. And so that way it will fit perfectly into their fitting. I wish they would just open that up maybe another couple millimeters. So that way there's room for other cables to be used if you want. Because as things currently stand, this cable is not long enough for what I need. I will admit, though, that the cable they give you is very strong feeling. It's a nice cable. It's got a good amount of copper in it. You can feel that when you pick it up. Um, but I know that not a lot of people have actually done much of a review on this yet, and I figured I'd give in my 2 cents and share with you guys. Now, I've still left the covers on the pads because currently I have no intention of using this as a mouse. That may change in the future, but this will keep the pads going good for longer. Um, Overall, I'd say 8.5 out of 10. This is definitely one of the better ones that I've used, and I've used a good handful of gamepads. I've used the Razer Tartarus, the V2 Tartarus. Um, there's a couple of other gamepads that are similarly made that I've used. Um, the thing that I really like about this is it's got the analog joystick on it, and the movement on it just feels very smooth. Whereas on other things like the V2 Tartarus, you're limited to a D-pad that has a quote unquote stick in it, and it's really not that comfortable to utilize. Not only that, but I've been a little bit disappointed with Razer, and as of late, a lot of their switches on stuff that I own of theirs have been dying. I've gone through a mouse, two Razer Tartarus V2s, um, and a couple of other things that have had the switches die on them, and the warranty was literally just passed, so there was nothing that could be done. And I don't blame them for that specifically, but they definitely need to up their game on their switches because I have a Naga from 10 years ago that still holds up to this day just fine. But my more recent Naga, the right click on it died. Overall, for $200, is it worth the money? If you already use gamepads for gaming or for productivity, yes. If you're just getting into it, maybe try a buddies beforehand if you have that option available to you, or the Razer Tartarus V2 is a good starter, but I would shy away from spending $200 unless you got that kind of money to just blow. I would hope to see some improvements over time on this, and hopefully they'll release it with, maybe a little bit longer cable, 90-degree, bigger plug size for the cable, as well as slightly thicker walls, maybe even change it from a plastic to a nylon. That might be a little bit more of an option for them to keep it strong. But it doesn't feel like it's just going to break on me the moment I squeeze it too hard, which is really nice. So I hope this has answered some questions. I will showcase me playing this on things like Helldivers 2, Apex Legends, Final Fantasy 14, and other games. If there's a game that I have that you guys want to see me try and use this in, feel free to just let me know. Also, if it's a free-to-play game, I'm more than willing to try and download it. Just don't blame me when I'm terrible at it. And I hope that this has been useful for some of you. Feel free to hit me up for some questions and comments and below. And don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys another time.